then we'll wait for another 2 minutes to see whether anybody else is joining. Okay, start. Just now the light went off, but my hotspot is working today. Hopefully it will stay. We'll see how it goes. Okay, we'll start. Inna alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlil fala hadiya lahu. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu wa yeah, only very few of you are here, but anyway, it doesn't matter because some of you want this in English. That's why I thought I'd better do it. You can at least convey the message to other people if the necessity arises. As I always say that we should always know that whatever that Islam has taught us for day-to-day life. You may not know nitty-gritty details of, linguistic differences and things like that in the Quran, things like that. But basically, everything has to be known. That is why it is said in the Quran, that is said that Rasulullah said, Talabul Farilatun ala kulli Muslim, right? What's happening? Okay. Learning about religion is a faril duty of everybody. It is not just it's good to sort of thing. No, it is a faril duty. Anybody who does not seek knowledge, try to continue to learn Islam, they are committing a sin. This is something a lot of people do not realize in whatever way that is possible. I wouldn't say somebody who has to work for 24 hours somewhere out on the road or something like that, that they have to somehow, but they also should try to get to religious knowledge somehow, because that is the basis and essential. Now, this topic, many of you may say, no, I don't have any zakat. I don't have anything to give the zakat, so why should I learn about it? No, you should learn about it, as I always said, for three reasons. One is to obey Allah when He says, Talabul ilm farilatun ala kulli Muslim. Second is, you may not really be a zakat giver, you may not be entitled to give now, but there can be a time when you will need to give, in which case you may come into some sort of property which yeah, you may have to give, and at that time you might find that you don't know, and that might be difficult for you to find out all the details. Third, of course, you may not have to give zakat, but there may be other people who would ask you to give some sort of information or knowledge about zakat. In which case, it's good. Every Muslim should be able to advise another Muslim, and that is where the knowledge comes. And therefore, we must learn about zakat. Now, I'm not going to do the basic things that you probably would have already known, heard about it, because everywhere these lectures are going on. There are YouTubes, there are articles, and so on. So I'm not going to tell you all who should give, to whom it should be given, how much to be given, on what it should be given. And if you all have any doubts, you all can ask at the end of the lecture in question form, and then, I will tell you. But I'm going to tell you all some things which are very important. Sometimes it is missed. Even if you listen to a lecture which they say, but it may be something you missed, it didn't strike you. The second thing is, how is it relevant to the women, right? Those are the two things I'm going to emphasize on. Now, we must first of all remember the is not the zakat that is due on my wealth is not mine. That is actually something which belongs to the recipient. So whoever the recipient may be, all the 8 categories, whoever who is there in surrounding us, all that, and that is their money. Now you see this Quranic verse in 24, Allah says, and about the wealthy people, Allah says in the Quran, in their wealth there is a known share for the beggars and the destitute. There is a share in our property which belongs to them. So if you don't give them, then you are actually using their money. The poor people's money you are eating and you are using and you are spending. Then that is said to be najis, right? It is actually stealing or cheating or najis, because zakat has two linguistic meanings. One is growth, that it grows. The second one is purification. So when you give the zakat, your property, your money, your jewelry, whatever you give zakat on, or whatever, all your rizq, everything becomes purified. If you don't give, it becomes dirty. So you will be eating and you don't know which part of your property can be said there, or this not that is that. If you have separated and kept it, that's okay. But if you haven't separated, it will be mixed in everything. So this is one thing we have to know. And to know the real implication, you all know the story how after Rasulullah died, there was a group of people who said, we will say the Shahada, okay, we are Muslims, we'll pray, we'll fast, we'll go for Hajj. But we won't give zakat because it is not that important. Whereas Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said, wherever prayer is mentioned in the Quran, zakat is mentioned. In 32 places it is mentioned, and he took war against them. And amazingly, the war is known as Ridda war. What is Ridda? Ridda is to become Murtad. Murtad is, you leave Islam. So this is the war against the people who left Islam. Did they leave Islam saying that we are going to become some other religious people or become atheists? No. They were continuing to be Muslim, praying, fasting, going for Hajj and Umrah and all that. But he called them Murtad, and that war is known as Ridda. The Sahaba said, no, you're making a war against the Muslims. He said, no, they are not Muslims if they refuse to pay zakat. So this should give us an implication of how important it is and how much it is expected of us to give. So now I will tell you various differences of opinion in some of the conditions, whether they should give that way or this way or every year or not, and how much and things like that. My attitude is, you all can either take it or leave it. My attitude is, if there's a difference of opinion, I always go by the maximum amount to be given, not the minimum amount to be given. I'd rather give that and finish it rather than on that day, on the day of the Akhirah, standing in front of Allah and kicking myself, saying, oh, why the hell didn't I give all that and finish it? Now, how does it profit me? I don't have a dirham or dinar, but all my good amals are going to be taken away, and perhaps I may be sent to hell. May Allah forbid, may Allah protect us, and we should not be regretting and kicking ourselves, thinking we should have done. That is why always it is safer to give more, and don't feel bad about giving a lot. The more you can give, the better it is, because we know that Allah has promised for every cent that you are giving, Allah is going to return 700 times. Right? That's a promise. Now, no bank in the world ever, at any time in the world, would give you a profit of 700 times. Only Allah can give that, and Allah had promised that. La yakhliful miyad. Allah never breaks his promise. We know that. Right. I'm going to skip over all this, that what will happen if you don't give it, and so on. This is something basic, but I will just mention this for you. The nisab, now on the amount, either money or jewelry or properties, earning properties, where you are having a property, where you are earning, right? All these are the common things that will come into us, women, right? So in this one, there are three things you should have for you to give the zakat. That is, it should be yours. If somebody else has given you something, maybe 20 sovereigns of gold or something like that, it is yours. You don't have to give it, because they have to give it. And they tell you to take out of that and give, but you don't have to give because it's with you. However long, even 10 years, even if you had it with you, you don't have to give. That person will have to give. So, for example, if you say, I have bought this for my daughter, right? You haven't given it to the daughter, then you have to give. But you have given it to the daughter in name's sake, but she says, okay, I'll leave it with you, Mama, and then it's with you, then she has to give, right? So it is the owner. The ownership must be there. Second one is, it should have been there with you for 1 year, one whole year. And remember, this one whole year is lunar calendar, not the solar calendar. Lunar calendar is the Islamic calendar that we use, because the Islamic calendar is about 10-11 days less than the solar calendar, January, February. That one is solar calendar. So that one is the 10 days less. So it should have been with you for and if you happen to use it between this 1 year and then put it back, should you give? There is a difference of opinion. But the most accepted, if you had that much in the beginning and if you had that much at the end, then you have to give it for the amount that you have from beginning and end. Second. Third is, it should reach the nisab. What is the nisab? The minimum amount you should have for you to give zakat. Now, that is the value of 10 sovereigns. And today it's astronomical. You know that, right? Today, I think, I'm not sure, the sovereign is going at, how much is it? It's about 2,80,000 or something, right? Or 1,80,000 or something like that for sovereigns. So I remember first time I bought gold, that was 3,000 rupees a sovereign. Now it is that much. So especially with this inflation and the dollar value falling, now we have this huge amount. So don't say, now I have only about 15 sovereigns and I can't be giving that much. It may come up to about 60, 70,000. I can't be giving that much. You used to maybe giving about 25,000 or whatever. Now it is not 60, 70, it will come to about 1.5, 2 lakhs or something like that. You have to sit and calculate it. So if you feel, okay, that's too much, one thing you must remember, if you have that much of gold or money, you have that much of gold or money. So if you have that, giving out of that 2.5% is not much, right? Those days, 10 sovereigns may have been 30,000, but today it is 30, maybe 3 million. I don't know. I haven't really found the price, but it's something like that. I'm told. Every day it is going up. So you are supposed to look out the time that you are giving the zakat. You have to find the price and then you have to calculate 2.5%. But don't worry, if you have the nisab, then you have minimum 10 sovereigns worth of what money or jewelry or something. So when you have that, you can't say, I can't give it because Allah has given it to you. If you didn't have it, then there's no question about it. The other thing you have to always remember is, by giving, you will never lose out, right? Don't ever think that you will lose out. If you don't have money to give out of either the jewelry, you give part of the jewelry away, right? Allah will give with that certainty that Allah will definitely bless me and I will have more than. It may not be in money or jewelry form. It may be contentment, happiness, peace of mind, other things in life. All that is risen. So Allah will return it to you. Rest assured, He will return it to you. So remember these three things. It should be yours. It should have been there with you for one whole year. And it should be more than nisab. And remember, if you have 10 sovereigns and even one manjadi extra, you have to give for the whole thing. Some people ask, is it only for the extra one? No. If you have 10 sovereigns, then you have to give for the 10 sovereigns. If you have 9.999 sovereigns, then no need to give, right? But once it comes to 10 sovereigns, you have to give for the whole of 10 sovereigns. We usually go by by gold and silver. Of course, we don't use much. It's 612 grams of pure silver is the nisab for silver, right? So how I have told you, right? Now, some of the important things I'll talk about that we should know. First is, it should be given as soon as it becomes due. When does it become due? It doesn't become due in Ramadan at all, right? Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam never gave zakat in Ramadan specifically. It might have been Ramadan, it might not be, but he never said Ramadan. But here we have got used to Ramadan and it has its advantages. One is, even those who forget to give the zakat will remember, okay, Ramadan has come, we have to calculate the money, and therefore, you will give. If the people who don't really sit and watch that and carefully give might give. Second is, the person who is receiving, nowadays we are giving it in a wrong way, right? Ideally, what we should give is give it to a person so that that person will not have to seek for zakat the next year. Even better, that person should be able to give zakat the next year. So that empower them, give the whole thing to one person so that they can set their lives up on that, and then they can continue to live without expecting anything from anybody. That's the way it should be given. But unfortunately, the mistrust between people, even the mosques, if they are collecting and giving, still there is a lot of mistrust. That is thanks to people who have been cheating, who collect the zakat and put it in their own account and keep it and get the profit without realizing that is fire, right? Fire in their stomach, and in the akhirah that they will be in the fire. If you use the zakat money for any of your profits, definitely that will be a huge sin. So we have to remember that we have to talk about it a lot more in the public and khutbah and so on, inshallah. Now, when you are giving, It's not in Ramadan. By giving in Ramadan, a person who's collecting a zakat can get at the same time during this month itself, they might get from 10, 20 people. And that way they will have enough for for their life for the next year, which is not really the correct way, but at least some good. But how should it be given? Whenever you get any money or property for investment or jewelry or anything like that, we should mark that day, and exactly 1 year from then onwards, if you have the same amount from the beginning to the last, the minimum amount. If you have less at the end of it, you give for that month. If you have more, then you give for the beginning amount. Whatever it is that had been there for 1 year, you should give 2.5% of that. So it need not be in Ramadan. So you have to really know this very carefully, because otherwise, say now this is April. So maybe last year in August or something, you got some money. If you think about it now, you will think, now this is still not 1 year, no, I don't have to give. But this August, I'm saying August, but actually you have to calculate the Islamic calendar 10 days before. By that day, you should give the zakat. So you might not give. And you might think, okay, next year I'll be giving. And if it had been there, then you actually have to give from August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, that 8 months. And in addition to that, you have to give for another year, which you might miss. That's why a good knowledge of when to give zakat, on what and how much and all, you should know. Because remember, this is najis, and if you don't give it, you are considered, we don't normally consider them to have gone out of Islam, but it's equal unto Ridda, right? You are, it's just as much as you don't pray or fast, as much as the sin is as much as that. So you will go to hell, may Allah protect us, right? So this is what we have to know, that it is, it becomes due as long as it comes to an end. Instantly, you don't have to give everything straight away, but you should separate it and keep it, so that it doesn't mix with your property. Or you can make if you don't have that much in cash or to give, you can make a niyat saying, I'll give it over the year. So if you divide, say if you have to give about 100,000, 120,000, you can say, okay, the 10,000 every month I will give. And you keep giving that. That way, by the time next year comes, you would have completed it. You don't have to give everything in one shot, but preferably you should give it in large amounts so that people will make better use of it. So that is the time, and also if it's a large amount, how to do it. Then remember that it doesn't have to be given to all 8 categories of people. Allah mentions in the Quran in Surah Tawbah, verse 60, he says, what are the categories that we have to give? In Sri Lanka, we don't have 2 kinds of, 2 of them are not there. That is, the slaves are not there, and also the amil, the one who goes around collecting the zakat, is not there. Now, some people say that you can use it, the zakat, for the running of organizations, because the organizations are going around collecting it. There is a huge difference of opinion. My personal opinion is, if the organization has been running without the zakat all this time, they should not touch it at all. 100% it must be given away, not to keep any out of the zakat, not to keep any money for incidental expenditures or salaries or electricity, water bills or phone calls or anything like that, because that doesn't belong to them. But there are some organizations who justify that, and they say, no, anyway they are working. But if you understand how Rasulullah categorized the amil is the one who collects, then we will understand where we draw the line. Rasulullah, they didn't have organizations or anything like that to collect the zakat now. So what he did was, he'll just think of a day in no specific date. He'll just say, okay, now he'll call some people, 10, 20 people, and say, okay, now come over and now go house to house and go and collect the zakat and come. Now, these people would have been earning in different ways. Other way, they may be a farmer, they may be a business person, or some other work he's doing. Now, he has to stop that work and come and go house to house and collect the zakat. That's how it was done at that time. It was all collected. It came to Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Then Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam distributed it to the eligible people. That's the correct way to do. So these amil, the workers, will have no income at that time because they can't do their regular job. So because of that, the 1/8 of the property was given to them by Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and the Quran also says so. But here that doesn't happen. In our country, that doesn't happen. That's why I feel that it is not correct for us to even touch 1 cent for the expenditure of the organizations. So that category is not there. Slaves are not there. All the other 6 categories are there. We can decide. Now, out of this, we can give the whole of the zakat. Say you have zakat about 5 lakhs. Now, if you feel you can give this 5 lakhs to one person who could set up a business and then, live his life without stretching his hand to anybody to ask anything, then you should give the whole 5 lakhs to one person or 2 people or whatever you want. So it doesn't have to be given to all 8 people. Important point I want to make here is, now we make a particular amount saying it is Maula Islam. This is a very, very, very wrong attitude. What we are giving is, now when somebody becomes a Muslim, we keep them as beggars for the rest of their lives. We are giving them for 10, 20 years and saying, the Maula Islam, Maula Islam, Maula Islam. We must remember Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Umar radiallahu anhu, Uthman radiallahu anhu, Ali radiallahu anhu, even Khadija radiallahu anhu are all the Maula Islams. They all became Muslims from other religions. And because of that, they did not go around asking for zakat right through their lifetime. Astaghfirullah, no. Right? They did not even want to take sadaqah, though they were very, very, very poor. Right? Some of them were very poor. Ali radiallahu anhu did not have anything to give us mahar to Fatima radiallahu anhu. And he didn't have money to give the walima. So ultimately his friends only put some money together and bought some dates, and that is how the walima was held. And Rasulullah did not offer saying, I'll give 50-50 like our women's the bride's parents are saying, I'll give 50, you 50, and you do the walima. Astaghfirullah. No, walima has to be done by the groom himself. So Ali radiallahu anhu was so poor, but he never went around collecting zakat. He was Maula Islam. So what is really Maula Islam intended in the Quran is the person who becomes a Muslim, either he is wanting to become a Muslim, but he is worried, if I become Muslim, I might lose my job, my relations, my friends, and there won't be anybody to support me. How I might be put out of the house, and how am I going to live during that period? Or a person who is interested in, who has become a Muslim, immediately they are finding it difficult to live on their own income, then you can give it to them. So it is maximum, I would say, 6 months, or even stretching it maybe 1 year. After that, they should never call themselves Maula Islam. Once you become a Muslim, you are a Muslim. There's nothing for Maula Islam forever. Right? You don't go around saying, I'm a Muslim, Maula Islam, Maula Islam. I get a lot of calls saying, I'm a Maula Islam. I always teach them saying, you are not a Maula Islam, you are Muslim. Because you were born a Muslim, and then you have gone out of the way for some time for various reasons. You have come back. So you are a Muslim, that's it. Don't call yourself Maula Islam. But if they fall into the category of those 8 categories. Like if they are a fakir or a miskin or a person with a loan or fisabilillah or ibn sabil or any of them, then it's okay. They can continue to stay like that. Then they become zakat eligible, not because they are Mawla Islam, because they fall into one of the other categories. Similarly, some of the Mawla Islam, when they become Muslims, they don't deserve any zakat at all. Because when they become Muslim, nothing changes for them. They are well-to-do, they have money, and so on. But what are we doing? We are encouraging people to come and take every year, and they stay as beggars. Now, when we train them to become beggars, they get used to that and they get angry. Even, I have had some women guarding me for saying that what you all are doing is wrong. I knew a lady who, when she became a Muslim, she started, and then after 10 years also she was coming. By that time she had her own house, the children were earning enough, and she was comfortably off, but she insisted she should have the zakat. When I told her this is haram, you can't take this, she was very angry. She went around telling that I'm not giving the zakat according to Quran and all. Of course, the fault is ours. Our society has kept people ignorant and in the wrong path. So we have to stop this. We have to stop this. Now, you know what is happening in golf is, at last people have woken up and decided, okay, we have to stop all these practices of cheating and corruption and stealing and Ravatana finding all the all the people of Sri Lanka on the basis of religion and race and language and all. It has to stop. So the change has to come from us. We have to start telling anybody coming and saying, I'm a Mawla Islam, we have to teach them. It won't take you 5 minutes to teach them. You must tell them, you should never, never, never call yourself Mawla Islam. There is no category called Mawla Islam. You just reverted to your original religion. And if you are having problems to survive at that time, we'll help you. Right? Either with zakat or sadaqah or anything. But don't carry on. This is another thing. When women, mostly women only we are helping, but women or men come and take the zakat, they always say, now see how the ignorance is. They always say, Nona, adutha varshamum kattayam ende pera vechukolunga marandravana. They said, Nona, don't forget to keep my name in the list next year also. I always tell them, don't say that. Don't say that. Say, ask the dua at that time, Ya Allah, please do not make me take zakat next year. Let me be, if not giver, at least let me be self-sufficient so that I don't have to ask for zakat. That's another thing. I always ask dua from Allah, neither me nor my children until the day of the Akhirah, my progeny ever come to a situation where they have to take zakat. May Allah give them enough. I mean, it doesn't have to be rollicking money, but just enough so that they don't have to go to that level. So we have to educate our society. Then the most important thing we have to remember is a poor man cannot be paid for his work from zakat. Say somebody is working for you, you have zakat, and you give the zakat money and say, okay, this is zakat, and today's your payment 3,000, now I am giving from my zakat. You can't do that. Or even without telling him, you can't deduct that 3,000 from your zakat. Zakat money cannot be paid for any services whatsoever. So you have to give zakat separately. And once you give the zakat, you cannot demand that they spend that on a particular thing. You can't. Right? If somebody comes and says, okay, I need to put the roof, and you can't give the money and say, I'll give you the money, but you must put the roof and you must come and show me that you have done it. because that is what I'm giving for. No, you have no right to do. If once you give, they may come and ask me, you want to put the roof. Okay, you give the money and that's it, finished. Kaput. You don't tell them what to do. You don't ask them, what did you do with the money? That's up to them. They might have just gone and had a good biryani meal and bought festival clothes and went on a tour to Peradaniya Gardens and then come and say, I spent all of that. Fine, that's none of your business. Because remember, zakat is not yours. Zakat is their money that was with you. Allah had kept with you for some time. And Allah blessed you so that you could enjoy that. So you have to give it and forget about it. You can't insist that you should do something. You can't follow them up with reminders and things like that. They can do whatever they want, right? Then also remember, zakat cannot be given for construction of masjid or madrasas or hospitals or wells or bridge or any public amnesty. Because amenity. Because when you give zakat, if that is going to be used by people who are not eligible, then it's haram, right? So if you are giving, say for an orphanage or something like that, then you have to tell them this is for the orphans who have no income and they are having, then they have to use it only for that. They cannot use that money to pay the electricity bill or current or anything like that. There is a little bit of difference of opinion, because the current bill and water bill, electricity of an orphanage is for them. But still, that should be given to the children, given to the people who are there, and then they have to decide what to do with that. And if you don't have money, you can give in some merchandise also. But remember, you cannot use zakat money to do iftar the programs or the sahar programs and things like that. Because they are, you are not really giving them the ownership. They might prefer to take that money and go and pay the child's school fee. That may be more important for them. So if at all, if you are going to give, you have to ask them, would you like to have the money or would you like to have a meal? But for them to prepare a good meal may be too expensive, but we can give a meal, but you have to explain to them and you have to be very genuine and sincere about it, because Allah is going to ask you on the day of the Akhirah. Right. These things I'm going to skip and go see, because these are things that you know. Right. Now, this is another important part for the ladies, that is jewelry. Right. On what jewelry are you supposed to go to give and when? Right. There is a common belief that it is the jewelry that you don't use for your personal income, so personal use. Now, this, what do you mean by use, is not what you are wearing every day, right? The popular agreed opinion of the ulamas are what you will be using in your life. Now, suppose you have 3 or 4 sets of gold jewelry, and by the way, diamonds and precious stones and all have no zakat on them. It's mainly however precious it is. That's again debatable. According to some ulamas, that on that also you give. But basically, according to hadith and all, that is not said so. What do you mean by the jewelry use is not the one that you are wearing all the time, not necessarily only that one, and also say you have about 3 sets of say gold jewelry, different patterns and so on. Whenever you are going for a function or a party or wedding or anything, you wear any one of them, then they are also considered to be your personal use one. Now, there is one opinion, they say that on your personal use, you don't have to give it. give zakat on them. Only the ones that you have bought and kept, saying that one day I might say this and make some money out of it when the price goes up and trade and all. This is one opinion. The other opinion is, no, Allah has given you even to wear every day the chain on your neck and the ear studs and the ring on your hand and the bangles and all. That also is a rizq of Allah. Allah has given it to you, which He has not given to everybody. And therefore, it's better to give for everything. I go with the latter opinion. I prefer to give for everything I own, whether even if I'm wearing something every day. By the way, I don't wear the jewelry at all, neither gold or any other imitation or anything. I gave up wearing jewelry about 25 years back. I don't even have a wedding ring. There's no wedding ring in Islam. There's nothing called wedding ring in Islam. Or is that the left hand? I don't know. I suppose. Anyway, I don't have even ear studs. I've given up all of them because what's the point, right? It's just when, of course, Allah is beautiful. Allah loves beauty, and it is allowed for Muslim women, Muslim to beautify, men and women to beautify themselves, and Muslim women, gold and silk is halal for them. Of course, it is not haram, but by and by, when you become more attached to Allah, more knowledgeable in the reality of this life and the next life, you must learn a little bit of zuhud. Zuhud is asceticism. Asceticism is detachment from the worldly things, right? You don't crave for property and jewelry and possessions and a lot of money and so on. I used to be very, very, very attached because when I was very young, before I became a doctor, I was very poor. I was absolutely dirt poor. That's why we didn't have even meals every day to eat, that much of course. So when I became a doctor and when I started earning well, I went to the other extreme. I bought and bought and bought and bought and bought everything, whether it's clothes or jewelry or whatever, right? I bought. And then somewhere along the line, Allah guided me to the study of the Quran and Hadith. All praise be to Allah. I'm not saying this as a as a matter of pride. I'm saying this as something that it is good because it relieves you of all this tanha. Tanha is attachment to things. So there was one time I had a lot of huge amount of furniture cluttering the house, a lot of antiques wherever I saw, I bought for large prices. Then I had so much of jewelry, so many saris, all that. And then at a point, I decided to just give away. Some of them I sold, some of them I gave away as gifts, some of them I just let it go and came to live the minimalistic life. It's very pleasing, very solacing, very warm to the heart because you don't have to worry about whether the prices will go up or down, then what will happen to my gold, somebody will come and steal it, or whether it will break and so on. I'll just tell you all an interesting situation. Digressing from this one, this realization came to me from a friend of mine. She's a non-Muslim, really. I went with her, my best friend. I went with her to shopping, Sunday shopping, and she said she's going to buy some gift for somebody, and she bought a table lamp. You remember nowadays it's common, those days it was rare that when you just touch it, it comes on, and when you touch it, it goes off. I was amazed, and I was so this that had just come to Sri Lanka. She bought one of them. Then I said, oh, I also want to buy. I could throw money around at that time very easily. So I said, I also want to buy. Then she looked at me and said, She knows she is in and out of my house. She asked, why do you want that? I said, no, it's lovely. I'd like to have. So she said, where are you going to keep it? Oh, why? I will keep it in the sitting hall. Then she said, a nice thing. She said, do you know you are buying an article of punishment? You're buying an article of punishment. I said, punishment? What do you mean punishment? I'm not getting punished for getting this beautiful lamp and keeping on my sitting hall. She said, no, one thing, you don't need it. You have chandeliers and you have enough lighting in this one. Second is, you will be keeping that and dusting it and cleaning it and so on. So that's a punishment. And suppose somebody knocks it over and then it breaks, your heart breaks, that's a punishment. And suppose somebody comes and steals and goes away, it's a punishment. Why do you want to put yourself through this punishment? What's the point? So actually then I realized why I was buying was out of Riya. Riya is showing, right? For people to come and admire and say, oh, you have this cute, nice lamp, and you feel big about it. But that's Riya. That is pride. That is showing off. We want people's people to praise you, praise your positions, and so on. And that's the day I actually decided, okay, I'm not going to buy any objects of punishment in you. And then I started giving away. Now, the people who come and see my sitting hall say, what? The sitting hall has nothing, no. Right? There's hardly anything. A set and a bookshelf. That's it. Right? No paraphernalia, no beautiful. They say I've been all over the world and I have bought loads of paraphernalia long ago. I don't have a single thing except something that had been there, one or two, and that if somebody says beautiful, I give it away. Inshallah. Nothing precious. I don't have any expensive paraphernalia, which I will feel bad if it breaks or if somebody steals or something like that. I'll say, okay, it's all right. So this is what is called zuhud, right? We have to develop this detachment from this life, right? From possessions, properties, money, name and fame, status, all this we have to slowly get detached, because on the day of the Akhirah, none of this will matter. But what you gave away will definitely matter. And how simply you lived will matter. Because Rasulullah could have lived like any of the Roman or Persian kings. Umar who asked, then Rasulullah said, why you don't want me to have the best of things in the Akhirah? Is that why you're asking me to have them? So he lived the simplest possible, so that by the time he died, there was nothing in his house except the mat they used to sleep, just a mat. Not a mattress, not a bed, no furniture, no dining table, no settee set, no chairs, nothing. Just the mat on which they will sit and talk and they will sleep. Also just plain mat, not even padded. Umar anhu wanted to get it padded, but he said the padded by the date palms. He said, no, I don't want it. I don't need it. And that one and water bag. That's it. And there was a piece of land which he said to Abu Bakr, nobody inherits from the Prophet, so give that in charity, and that was taken over by the Khilafah and used for the poor people. That's how he lived. So it's a beautiful life. It's easy if you set your heart about it, but you have to have that point of realization that none of these things are coming with you for the Akhirah. You will be going totally empty-handed. Okay, we'll come back to this. So the first thing is the personal use. My opinion is, this is when I say my opinion, it's not my personal opinion, right? This is what some ulamas have said, and the other one is what the other some ulamas have said. One ulama say, whatever you have, you give for everything that you have. For that, they show that evidence a lady comes to Rasulullah, says, she's wearing a gold bangle. He taps it with a stick and say, would you like a ring of fire on the day of the Akhirah? Then she says, no, I have given zakat for that. And he says, okay. So that means she was wearing it, but she had given zakat. So that is one way. And some people say the other way about that. Right. So that is about whether personal use or not. Now, when you should give, right, that also there are three opinions. According to some ulamas, only once in your lifetime is enough. So you have, say, 50 sovereigns of gold for the last 50 years, right? Maybe when you got married, you got it, but you have been having it for last 50 years. And then you should you give every year or not? Now, one opinion is once is enough. So, some people say if it is something anyway you'll be using, no need to give at all, as I said earlier. The third opinion is, of course, whenever you are having any of them above the nisab, you have to give it every year. I go along with that every year thing. I preferably give it. Now, when you say every year, if you keep giving from 50 sovereign, that that is 2.5 sovereign, or 1.25 sovereign, every year you will have to give. So you will wonder, oh, if you keep giving like that, if you don't have money, if you keep giving the gold like that, wouldn't you have ultimately nothing, right? No, you will never have nothing, right? You'll always have something. Why? Because by the time it comes down to 10 sovereigns, you stop giving zakat. So anyway, minimum you will be having the amount of nisab. Below that, even one manjadi less than that, then you don't have to give the zakat. So that will be there for you always. Second, of course, you will never have nothing because Allah will always give you more and more and more and more. So you will not be in need at all, right? It may not be that you will have a lot of jewelry, but you may have a lot of other blessings which you cannot buy with money or jewelry. You will have. Right. The other question asked is about the property and fixed assets. It depends on what you are possessing that for. Now, if you are having property which you have no intention of selling at all, you just buy thinking that is for my children, for my retirement, and so on. You just buy and put it away with no intention of selling at all, then no zakat on that. And if you are going to live in that, if not every day, even for a holiday, if you are going to go and live there, but you are not going to rent it out or give it to anybody else, then no zakat. And if you haven't really decided, will I sell it and make a profit or not, or will just let it be this one, then also you must say no zakat. But if you buy a property and then you either rent it out or you sell it, or for sale you buy it. You buy a property, many people buy like that. I'll buy now and then after 10 years or 5 years or 2 years or whatever, I will sell it and make a profit out of it. Then you have to give zakat. And if you are getting it for rent, then you have to give zakat on that. No question about that, right? Of course, notice zakat is not payable on haram income at all. It will not be accepted. Entire value of the haram money should be given away in charity without leaving even 1 cent. Haram money is haram and no good will come out of it. Even when you give the haram money away, if it is interest money or in cheating and conning other people, you got the money or property or anything like that, none of those things, zakat is exempt. If below that, it is not expected for you to even keep that with you. You cannot give it to one is non-Muslims, except those hearts are inclined to Islam. Now remember, now we say Mawla Islam, but the Quran said Mu'allafatul Qulub. That's how it says about this, the new Muslims. It doesn't say new Muslims. It says mu'allafa. Mu'allafa is attached. Somebody's qulub is heart. Somebody's heart is attached to Islam. They want to become Muslims, but they are scared to become Muslims because they don't know how they will be able to survive. For that, for those people, you can give, but not to non-Muslims as such. But if you go and give zakat to an area where there are a lot of Muslims are there and a few non-Muslims are there, and then if you think, you give them also something and explain to them why we are giving zakat is for this reason. The rich people have to give it to the poor people, 2.5% of their saving. And this is to, on one side, to reduce our tanha attachment to the property and money and possessions. Second thing is to minimize the difference between the rich and the poor and to make the poor live comfortably. So by saying all those things, they may get attracted to Islam. In that case, you can give it to the non-Muslims. That is one exception, one allowed thing. But that's mu'allafatul qulub, the hearts to be attached to Islam. We are making it a means. And remember, the people who hail from family of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's haram for them. So people call themselves Sayyids, Maulanas, Banu Hashims. We are from the generations of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They actually from the him or not, we don't know. But if they claim sadaqah and zakat are haram for them. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam clearly said that in many hadiths. But these people go around calling themselves Maulana, but they also take all the sadaqahs and zakat, and we also giving. Now, this both ways. If there is nobody to give, there is nobody to take. If there is nobody to take, there is nobody to give. So we have to block this vicious cycle. We should stop giving them. We must tell them, it is haram. You can give them a gift if you want to. If they are poor, you can give them a gift, but not from sadaqah or zakat. And about your relatives. Remember, your relatives are the priority. Instead of giving anywhere, either orphans or really poor people or Palestine or anywhere, their first priority is to your relatives. But out of your relatives, when it comes to a man, he cannot give it to his own parents, his grandparents, his children and his grandchildren, or wives, or anyone who is in his protection, right? He cannot give the zakat to them. That's for a man. But when it comes to a woman can give it to anybody. She can give it to her parents, her grandparents, children, grandchildren, husband, anybody she can give, because Allah had not made a woman in charge of anybody whatsoever. And obviously, man and woman can give it to their brothers and sisters. They are the first priority. If your sister or brother is suffering, or their children are suffering, or your aunties and uncles, your father's mother or mother's brothers and sisters are falling into these categories, any of these categories, then your zakat should go to them first. And also your husband's family. Right? If they have people who are in need, they should go to them. And then slowly you have to extend it to your extended family. And your neighbors. Neighbors also, you should give them first, because your zakat is really for the atmosphere where you're breathing from and you're eating from. So ideally, it should be given to people in your area first. And then after that is exhausted, you can give it to outsiders. So we have to have this very clearly. Many people would not give their own sisters and brothers who may be really suffering and not having even enough to send the children to school, but they will give it to some orphanage or some other poor people somewhere else, far away, millions. Right? Allah will not accept them, right? Allahu Alam, right? Because their first priority is to your relations. Okay. Okay, about loans, right? A loan cannot be written off as a zakat, right? Suppose somebody owes you money and then you have zakat. You cannot say, okay, I was to give you the zakat, say 50,000. You owe me 50,000, no? So I will take it and I won't give it to you, right? I won't give it to you. You don't have to give my loan. You can't do that. That's not allowed. You have to give that 50,000 to them and say, this is your zakat. Whether they offer to pay your loan back or not is entirely up to them. You cannot ask for your loans to be paid by your zakat, right? If they get the zakat either from you or from anybody else, they can pay your loan. That is to them. As I always say, remember that the money that you give to them is theirs. You have no right on ordering them what to do or requesting even to pay whatever you want. Zakat cannot be given as a remuneration for any services, right? For working with you or servant salary or anything like that, you cannot do. In case you have lost some property and it came back, the zakat is due on from the time it came back. You don't have to give for the time it was lost. If there is a joint business, both parties do not have to give for full, right? They have to give for their share. Say if one person has 40%, the other person has 60% share. According to that, if that also comes above nisab, they have to give only that much. So on the same capital, there are no two zakats, right? If both of them give for the full, then all of them will be double. There is no zakat like that. Zakat cannot be offset against taxes paid to the state. Tax that you should pay to the state is a wajib duty, right? That is something you cannot stay away from. And you cannot say, I'm giving zakat and therefore I don't have to pay tax is not allowed at all, because that is a different matter. This is a different matter. Then what about loans, right? What about pensions and EPF and PE, that all the zakat becomes eligible only once you get it, right? Out of them also, if there is interest money coming in, you have to deduct it and give it away. And then balance, you have to check whether the nisab is there. And then that also, after it being with you for 1 year, then only. If it had been with the government for 10 years or 20 years even, you don't have to pay zakat for that. Once it comes in your hand, from then onwards, after only, you have to mistake. And also about loans, you don't have to pay loans for any loan that you have given to people because it is growing. According to some ulamas, that is your money, that is with the others. So you first check to see whether you are sure it's coming back. If it is coming back, you should pay, according to some ulamas. Some ulamas say, no, you don't have to pay. You have to pay only once you get it. The loans you have taken, even if it is with you, you don't have to pay because that you have taken as a thing. And incidentally, if you have been collecting money for anything else, like for going Hajj or for maybe for a wedding of your daughter or something like that, if it had been there for more than 1 year and more than nisab, yes, you have to pay, right? With whatever the intention is. Somebody else asked whether zakat can be given to a future husband if she has decided to marry somebody. Yes, of course, you can give it provided the husband falls within that category. The husband should be zakat eligible. That is, he must fall within that one of the 8 categories, one or two of the 8 categories he should fall into. Otherwise, Just because you are going to marry him later, you can't give zakat. Like, this is something that I found amazing when I started teaching Islam. A lot of people came and said, "Oh I'm very well off. I have enough. I have a house and car and bungalow and everything. My brother has lots of zakat. So every year he just gives me 2 or 3 lakhs, just saying, okay, you keep this out of his zakat." Is that valid? No, haram, because she's not entitled to it. So his zakat is not fulfilled, and it's haram for her if she had taken it as a zakat. So she should give it back, and he should give it back to zakat eligible people. Okay, right. Now I'll stop there, and if there are any questions, I'll ask you. Then don't forget the zakatul fitr. It's also called sadaqatul fitr. That is something you have to give before the festival prayer time, right? 2.5 kilos of usual thing that we eat. Ideally, rice or flour. In Sri Lanka, in Saudi, and all, they used to give the dates and wheat and all. You have to give. So the idea is twofold. One is it will overcome any faults of us during the fasting. Allah will forgive us when we give the zakatul fitr. Second is, of course, that all the Muslims on the festival day will have something to eat. Nobody will go hungry, because you are supposed to give it to somebody below you. That's it. That is not for people zakat eligible. It can be just maybe your neighbor, they are quite okay, but you are much better off than them. Then you can give it to them. Then out of that, they can give it to other people. On their own, they can give it to other people. And like that, it has to keep going down and down and down and down, so that nobody goes hungry on the festival. Okay. Right, I'll stop there. If there is any questions, anybody wants to clarify, you can ask.
Assalamu alaikum, madam. Mufiza here.
Yeah.
Somehow I have been made as co-host. I don't know why. One thing, madam.
Who is this?
This Mufiza, madam. I don't know how it became. I have become a co-host.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't
Question, madam.
Okay.
I have a question. If I'm drawing a government salary, so how do I calculate the zakat for the salary? Because it's not, we don't have profit in it, right?
No, actually, you don't pay zakat on your income. It is only on your savings.
Okay.
Right? You don't pay zakat on your income. It's only on your savings. And out of that savings, you should have minimum nisab. You may not have much. Now, all the zakat is only what you save after spending for yourself. You may be living a very luxurious life. Maybe 4 cars and big, 3-4 houses, and you spend lavishly, going to hotels and eating and so on. Of course, israf is, the extravagance is frowned upon in Islam. But if that is your lifestyle, you don't have to pay zakat for any of those things. Even if you have 4 cars, you don't have to pay zakat on that. Even if you have 3-4 fridges, you don't have to pay zakat. So whatever you're using, whatever you're earning, whatever you're spending for yourself, there is no zakat. Only after spending all that, what you have saved, and that should have been there with you for 1 year. So you may not be saving much. I don't know how you are. It's okay. You don't have to pay it. But if you have jewelry, right, or if you have a property which you are renting out, or you have a share in some market, or you have a share in a business, all those things, if all of them add up to, all of them put together add up to the value of 10 sovereigns today, then only zakat becomes, you are becoming zakat eligible, zakat, to give zakat. Okay.
Okay.
But having said that, I will also tell you all a nice thing my father taught me. I teach it to many people. Our family, most of the people are following. My brothers, sisters, children, everybody. From the very first salary I earned, my father always said, "Okay, your zakat is your savings, but just get used to giving away whatever you are earning for the month. Take the whole amount and give 2.5% away. You'll never regret." Right? Which I have been doing always. That's not exactly zakat. That will be much, 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 much more than the zakat amount. Right? But I've been doing it, and I think that is one, not I think, I'm sure that is one reason Allah has always kept me self-sufficient, because Allah always gives it back. Right? It's a loan to Allah. So Allah gives it back. So I've been always giving 2.5% or more, not less, or more of my monthly earning. Please remember, I'm not saying this to show off or as a matter of pride or anything like that. These were beautiful practices our parents taught us. He said, this is not necessary for you to do, but if you do that, you'll never regret it. And true to his this thing, he told me this about 50 years back. And Alhamdulillah, it had stood me by. So that is something, if you want, you can do. The Christians give 1/10 away of their earning. Subhanallah. Right? So Allah has not put us that much of a problem. Allah says 2.5% only of your savings, not even your income. Right? Okay. Right.
Jazakallah khair, madam.
Yeah. Any other questions anybody wants to ask?
Assalamu alaikum, doctor.
Walaikum assalam.
Doctor, now if you have some savings cash in the bank, do you have to give for the amount of money you have or the profit you get?
No, for the amount of money you
Amount.
have.
Okay, okay, doctor. Okay. Okay,
Right? You may not even get any profit if you have it in, say, commercial bank or something like that.
Okay.
You have to check what's the total amount you have. Add the jewelry, add that money, any other the savings you have over 1 year, and then give out of that.
Okay, doctor. Jazakallah khair.
Anything else? Ashika, you were the one who really wanted this. So any questions, or are you very clear? Ashika? She's keeping quiet. Okay. Anybody else want to ask anything else? Otherwise, we can close it. Everything is clear? Okay. Right. Okay. So if there are no questions, we'll stop there.
Madam, there's
Ashika?
a question in.
Yeah.
There's a question in the chat box, madam. That's what I was asking.
Okay. Do you have to give zakat for refundable deposit given by your tenant? If it has been with you for 1 year, actually this is a bit debatable, because this is not exactly your money, right? It doesn't belong to you. You have to give it back to them. So if it has been with you for more than 1 year, then if you're going to refund it to them, it's like a loan, or it's a safety measure in case they damage the house or something like that. Strictly speaking, no. But as I always say, these are some gray areas, right? More likely that you don't have to, but if I were you, I will give. Because it had been there all the time. I could have used it anytime. Not that you can't use it. No, you can always invest it or do anything with it until, when they are going, you have to just give it. And that also, if they have made any damages, you will be using it anyway for you. So my personal opinion is give more than what you really have to give. Is always safer. And of course, will be loved by Allah. But from all what I have studied, I assume since it is not exactly yours, one of the criteria for zakat is it should be yours. Since it's not yours, I suppose even if you don't give, there is no problem. Oh, that's Ashika asking. Okay, right. Anybody else want to ask any other questions? This is a subject we should talk a lot about. We should really converse on a day-to-day this thing. Inform your children, your husband, your brothers and sisters, your parents, and all. Whatever you learn today, new things, speak to them so that all this should be common knowledge. Right? It shouldn't be like, okay, when the zakat time comes, we have to listen to a lecture to make sure everything is there. Now, this is what's happening to our society. Community, we are this knee-jerk reactions. Whenever problem comes only, we think, what should I do? Whereas we should always know what to do, right? For example, when the periods are there, more than the usual time, what should you do? Should you fast? Should you pray? Every year in, year out, year in, year out, year in, year out, we get 101 question. Can I fast? Can I not fast? Can I pray? Can I not pray? These should be common knowledge. Like, simple things. How to put on a shoe, right? You put the right one on the right leg and left one on the left leg. So that sort of thing, it should be there. That doesn't happen because we are not really learning. We're just listening, and then you say, okay, when I have a problem, I can always go back to somebody and ask, which is not really correct. You should know, and you should be able to tell people. Does the person matter or situation matters when giving out zakat? The person and the situation. The person matters because if they are your relatives, they have the first priority. The situation, they should fall into one of the 8 categories. So both of them matter, right? Whereas if you don't like somebody and you know that they are in need of zakat, even if you don't give it, it's okay because you can give it to anybody you like, but it should be within the rules that I told. Relations with the person matters. No, it doesn't matter, right? It maybe you have a sister or brother, you don't like them much, but anyway, so rather you can't be angry, because if you're angry, none of your duas will be answered, and if you happen to die at that time, with that you'll never go to heaven. That's a different topic. But even if you don't like them, maybe you don't like them because they don't pray properly and they are not nice to people or kind to people and so on. It doesn't matter if they are finding it difficult to meet ends, falling into one of the other the 8 categories. You can give, and if it is your relative, ideally you should. Maybe with that you can change them. Maybe if they are having bad habits, the monetary problem may be the reasons for the bad habits or bad attitude, or the lack of relationship with you, maybe because of the fact that you are rich and they are poor. So by giving this, you can mend relationships and so on. The thing is, it is very easy to decide if only you remember, this is not my money. This Allah has kept this extra money with me, and this is somebody else's money. I have to give it away. So to whom I give, to the people Allah has said, if they fall into that category. Says, for example, if you have a relationship with him and intend to marry later, nikah not done yet, it's okay if that person falls within that 8 categories. I keep repeating this. They have to be either a fakir or a miskin. That is, fakir is a person who doesn't have enough to eat for today. Miskin is a person who cannot have enough for the whole year. A person with loans. the slave and amila nabya, fi sabilillah, the ones who's working in the way of Allah, ibn sabil, somebody is on the out of his house somewhere, either in the same country or different country, though he is very rich, he cannot acquire his money. So these categories you can give. If that person you are intending to marry later is falling into one of them. Not just because he says, oh, I need money to start a business, or I need money to go abroad and come, or something like that. No, you can't give for that trivial reasons. It has to be with this thing. You can give it to anybody. You don't have to have a relationship, right? In the sense, it may be somebody you've never heard of, but somebody comes and says, oh, such and such a person is finding it very difficult to feed his children, and you've never heard of them, you have never seen them in your life, but you give the zakat to them anyway, it's fine. So it doesn't have to be your relations or anybody known to you. It could be a total stranger, right? Often ours goes is to the this thing. Fakir and miskin, it is Allah mentions fakir and miskin in the same this thing. So the difference is which one is which is there is a difference of opinion. Some ulama say fakir is a person who doesn't have enough for today, but he doesn't have the next meal. Some people say miskin is that. So other people say the other way about it. It doesn't matter, since both categories are there. Either a person who doesn't have enough for today, for one day, doesn't have proper clothes, doesn't have a place to stay, doesn't have enough to eat and drink, doesn't have enough to feed his family. Now that is one category. The other category is if they cannot fulfill the basic needs of himself and the family, or herself and the family, for 1 year. That's the other category, right? You call them miskin or fakir is in the immaterial. 1 year means you not to sort of have a gala wedding and buy expensive cushions and the sofa set and all. Basically, to eat enough, to dress decently, and a place to stay, either it is rented or otherwise, own or whatever, and to send the children to school enough to provide for them. That sort of basic amenities, if they do not have, and there is no way that they can earn with the job they have or with the country's situation today, then they are falling into that category. Okay? Right.
Excuse me, madam.
Yeah.
One more.
Yeah.
Now you said like from your salary, if you spend an amount, as you said,
Yeah.
2.5%,
Yeah.
then that is going to be sadaqah, right? It's not.
Yeah, it's
zakat.
not exactly zakat.
No.
Right? But my father, Vapa, used to say that some Sahabas used to give it like, right? That's how he came up with that idea. That will not reduce your zakat. Your zakat anyway by the end of the year, in a sense, end of the year of the collection, not necessarily every Ramadan. As I said, you have to calculate. If you have zakat, any savings or jewelry, you have to give on them if they come up to the nisa.
Okay.
So this cannot be reduced for that.
Okay.
Right? On the other hand, you can do the other way about. That is, say you have certain amount of money and jewelry, and you have to give for a year this much, right? But say your zakat comes to about 1 lakh, but you cannot give 1 lakh now. You can't afford it. So then you can give that 1 lakh every month, right? 1 lakh in the sense divided, maybe the 10,000 a month or something like that. That will go from your salary, So that is not what I'm talking.
Okay.
That's a different, right?
Okay.
You should do both.
Okay.
Okay. Right. So we'll stop there then, right? Inshallah. Anyway, hope that you all will talk about it to other people and inform other people. Rasulullah said, "Balligh anni walau ayah." Even if you hear from me, one ayah, one verse, convey it to other people. If you keep doing that, if you have this intention, I want to convey it to others, there are two advantages, right? One is three advantages. One is you are fulfilling this Rasulullah's order. When he says ayah, it means anything Islamic, if you convey it, you are fulfilling his request. Second is by doing that, if you convey a good thing to another person, if that person does it, right, continue to do that, as whenever he does, you will also get thawab of as if you have given the same thing, same amount in sadaqah, zakat, or whatever you do, right? It's not only about sadaqah, zakat, prayers or fasting or being nice to the parents or relations or neighbors or anything. If you tell people and they follow your instruction, your advice, your knowledge, and they practice it, you will also be rewarded as much as them without reducing any thawab for them. Second thing. The third advantage is, the most important advantage is, if when you're listening to a bayan or YouTube lecture or radio program or anything, if you have this basic instinct, I must convey it to other people. I must teach it to other people. Somebody, maybe your own children, maybe somebody known to you, maybe somebody, a friend of yours, you can chat or whatever. Then you will listen to it totally different. You will listen to it very carefully. You will absorb it properly, and you will imbibe it in your heart so much so that you don't have any doubts. Whereas if you think, okay, there's a bayan, okay, I'll listen to it, fine, that's it, finished. Then you will always have this nagging idea at the back of it. Oh, it doesn't matter, even if I forget, I can always ask her again. Not that you all can ask me all the time again, no. Right? There may be people who cannot, for some reason or whatever, not that I'm angry with anybody, but I mean, you may be not very comfortable calling me and ask me, or calling any Maulavi or anybody and asking, and all, you might not know. I must teach it to other people very carefully, and you learn. Slowly you will learn. Hello? Okay, right. If there are no questions, we'll stop there. Okay. Anything else anybody wants to ask? No? Okay, we'll stop there. No current here. Somebody's at the gate and they were calling. That's why. Okay. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum assalam.
Walaikum salam wa
Gate
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
light.
Madam.
Yeah.